there's lots I could talk about. Like, I think one of the main things to start off with is like growing up in a really dysfunctional family, however it looking very functional from the outside.
Yeah.
So like living in a really nice house, like I was brought up in Kingswells, lived in a really nice area, really nice house, nice car in the driveway, you know, fence, painted doors, like, you know, all the things that if you were to walk past you'd think, oh my god, what a really nice house, look at the garden. Inside the house was insane, you know, like my mum's a functioning alcoholic, now not functioning because she can't do anything but drink alcohol, and my brother was a heroin addict at that time, so there was a lot of chaos going on in the house, and because my mum was so unpredictable, it would be like at night time it would be fighting and arguing and the occasional physical violence. And then in the morning, it would be like, good morning, what would you like for breakfast? You know, that.
So it was that kind of, you never knew what, from minute to minute, it was almost like you were on high alert all the time.
Never knew what mood I was getting, never knew kind of, there was no soothing, there was no loving, there was no predictability, it was always just chaos. So you were always like on edge because I never really knew what I was going to get, you know, and my mum had a really good job, which made it kind of a bit more harder for me anyway, because, you know, I was getting taken to, at this point, I think I was about 7 or 8, I was going from like child psychologists, psychiatrists, because I was getting like diagnosed, so I was up at Cornhill all the time, and
what at 7, 8 you were
so I was going up there like 2 times a week to see a psychiatrist, and I got diagnosed with ADHD and high functioning Asperger's. Still to this day I think I've got ADHD, I don't think I've got Asperger's. I think I was just unable to deal with the emotions that were going on inside me that I acted out, you know, and at school I was really loud, I was really abrupt. I had been speaking to the psychiatrist about things that were going on at home, and my mum was calling me a liar because she didn't obviously want the psychiatrist to think that she was drinking and this was going on in the house. Back then, like 20 years ago, like it was a lot different. And because of my mum's job title, she kind of used that quite a lot to say, you know, look, she's lying, see, this is why we're here. So whilst that was going on and the abuse was going on, I thought, well, I can't tell her because she's not going to believe me, because she's already saying I'm a liar. And I can't tell psychiatrists because they don't believe me. And this kind of just continued and through primary school and then academy, and my behaviour was horrific. But the thing was, nobody ever asked me why I was behaving like that. They never asked me, like, is there anything going on for you? Like, and if they had, by that point, I didn't trust anybody, so I don't actually think I would have told anybody. And then at about the age of 11, the drugs started, you know. I was going to my brother's a lot, which was actually nicer. So I would go to my brother's the weekend and get, like, so my mum could have a rest or whatever she wanted to put me there for. But in that house there was lots of drugs, you know, like he was a heroin addict, and there was people coming in and out the house all the time, and there was drugs everywhere, and that's when I started taking drugs, you know. So I started taking drugs there, and by the time I'd got to school I'd already smoked weed and took diazepam, and I was drinking, but what I found was, because there was so much going on in my life, that was like the only thing that would take away. Now I know from the work that I've done on myself, now I know that's the only thing that kind of took away the pain from what was going on.
Almost dampened everything down.
Yeah, you know, so off I went to academy, and like I was just wild. Like I was wild, like I was uncontrollable, I was so angry. And I got in trouble all the time. I never listened. I was rude. I was abrupt. I had no respect for any sort of authority, because the people that were supposed to, you know, trust and insecurities and abandonment is a massive defect for me. And I think, like, in school, like I just felt like, when I was by myself, I just felt so alone. But see, when I was with people, I felt so alone because I couldn't trust anybody, and I didn't know how to express how I was feeling. So I was just angry, you know. And in this period, I had social workers. Like I had social workers from the age of like 8, and they were saying that I was attention seeking. That's what the report said, you know, she's attention seeking. So why was I attention? Like,
I always find it quite interesting because I've worked with children and young people and been a lead professional, is that we always blame the kid, right? So we always say their behaviour is attention seeking, but we never say they're just kids.
there's always something going on. A kid doesn't wake up, a kid doesn't know what attention seeking is until you explain it to them.
Yeah.
Like, they don't know what they're doing.
Most kids don't wake up angry either.
They're doing it because there's something going on emotionally for them inside. And that's what my case was. By the time I got to like 13, my mum could not cope anymore, so she signed me into the care of the authority, so Aberdeen City Council. So she had asked 3 times for me to be removed, and they were like, you know, she's got a home, she's got a bed, she's clean, it kind of backfired, you know, because everything my mum was promoting, now she didn't want to have me in the house because she said I was too much. Because my behaviour as well, you know, I was going away for days on end, taking drugs and not turning up to school and running away and blah 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 blah. So I got removed and I got put to a residential unit in Perth. So how that happened was, I woke up one morning and my mum asked me to come downstairs, and I went downstairs, and there was 2 police officers, 2 social workers, my mum and my dad, and they had packed all my stuff while I was sleeping at night time and told me that I was going to Perth. And I says, what do you mean? Like, they said that I was going there to live. So I got put in this car and I got driven there, and all through this time I was like, why the fuck is this happening to me? Like, what have I done? Like, I have done fair enough, I'd not been going to school, I'd been going to children's panels, and they had been telling me, like, if you don't start behaving, if you don't start listening to your social worker, you will be removed. And I was like, okay, but I didn't actually believe that it would be a thing. So they took me away to Perth, and there I done the same thing, you know, like I sourced out drugs, like very early on, probably in the first week. I would walk into the city of Perth and I would just find somebody and they would get me whatever I wanted. You know, so even there, like, I was taking drugs on a daily basis. The only difference was I was getting some sort of education, because it was like half of it was a school, half of it was where you stayed in. But it was quite, like, there was units, so there was 4 units, and like a lot of stuff happened there. Like, you got physically restrained and like pinned on the floor. Like, anytime you got angry and expressed yourself in an angry, like, if, like, you know, punch something or throw something, you would just get thrown on the floor and restrained. So then again, there I am, like, the only way I can show you that I'm hurting inside is by showing anger, but you're still hurting me. Yeah. Like, do you know? So that was that. I was there till I was 16. I left there, I came back to Aberdeen, and then I got taken to the council. So they took me to Aberdeen City Council, who put me in a hostel on Crown Street. So I was 16 years old. They took me into my room, and it was 2 bunk beds in a room. So I was sharing a room with like 3 women who were like in their 30s, and they were all like drug addicts. And there was no place to put your clothes, it's like everything you had to keep under your bed. And the woman told me when she was showing me the room, she was like, whatever you do, don't leave your stuff in the room because it will get stolen. I was like, so where do I take it? And she was like, if you're going out, just take everything with you. So that was a culture shock, because I went from this environment where I was getting like 3 meals a day, they were doing my washing, you know, like they were cooking for me, cleaning for me, telling me like, oh, you know, you've got to change your bedding today. It's totally different now. So back then what they would do is you would have a review before you left, and they would ask you, do you want so they would ask you at 15 years old, after you've been in care for years, do you want support when you leave here? Like, the first thing you're going to say is no. That would be the decision. So, like, if you said no, you would then be treated as an adult when you turn 16. It's totally different now, though. Now it goes up to 21. So I said no, and they were like, okay, so this is what, so off I went to the homeless, put me in a hostel. So I got released, I got out of the home on the 23rd of July 2008, and by November I was in prison. So yeah, so I went to prison in Stirling, so I was in there for a few weeks, came out, back into the same hostel. Out for a few months, but in total from 2008 to 2017 I was in jail 24 times. I spent 7 years in prison, on and off, and all drug related, like all either under the influence of alcohol or drugs, and like 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 young offenders, and then 21 into the adult system. And the thing is, the same thing happened every time I got out of prison is what it did when I got out of care, is they just put you back in the same environment. Like, for me, like, there's no rehabilitation in prison, like nothing at all. And by this point, so when I went into prison at 16, I started taking heroin. But it was weird because I was taking heroin in prison, but I was coming out and I still kind of had I still had normal, subnormal friends, and I would hide that from them, and with them I would smoke weed and I would take E's and coke and whatever it was, and like I would get flats from so the council would give me a flat, it would basically just be somewhere, a place where people partied all the time, and because I was so lonely and just wanted to be accepted and loved and cared for, and I didn't care who was in my flat. I didn't care like what people were doing, and I would chameleon into anything so I could have people around me. I used to sometimes, when it got too much out here, I would just pack a bag with like stuff and go out and do something to get put to prison.
So when you were a corporate parenting, it's called, isn't it, when you're signed over to the council? Mm-hmm. So you went from corporate parenting with the council to corporate parenting with the prison service.
Yeah.
So it's that is a very common journey, isn't it, for people that have been in similar situations, because you want to be part of a family. Mm-hmm. You were part of a family. It was just quite a negative kind of wheel of crap. Yeah. So it's just interesting that this corporate parenting idea is transferable from the care system to the prison service. Prison system, and that's why when people say, oh, I was in the care system, we know that people that have been in the care system have higher representation in especially the Scottish prison system. I mean, I think that's replicated everywhere. And I think it's really interesting when people still blame them.
Yeah.
So you were blamed as a kid, you were blamed as a teenager, you had to make these really big decisions when you were 16 that you weren't equipped for, because normal teenagers aren't, and I mean normal in terms of maybe with a support system that was more productive and positive than yours. And then we go, oh, it's their fault they're in prison. You're like, is it? And if you unpick all of that and listen to that story, you're like, at what point do you honestly think you could have made it, even though you had a very difficult time? At what point do you think, were there times that you could have made different decisions?
I think that I probably could have talked about some of my trauma a lot earlier than what I did, because I didn't start talking about it till I was like 26.
What was that? What was the trigger for you to start talking about that?
I got clean and started a 12-step program.
Oh, amazing.
So prior to that, like, I think I'd confined in like social workers. I would tell bits, But like, honestly, for me, like, a lot of people have asked me this question about what I would do differently, and honestly, nothing. Because like the person I am today, and the resilience and the determination and the motivation and the passion I have for life is because of my experiences. And I think that if I hadn't went through what I'd went through, I wouldn't be the person that I am today. And as well as like what could I have changed? There's nothing I could have changed. I didn't have the opportunity to change anything. Like, everything was out with my control. Like, I was never making decisions for myself. Like, people were always making decisions for me. And from the age of 8, I've always been a file. You know, like, I wasn't a human being. Like, I was a file. So people just added more information to this file. And every time they passed me on to a new place or a new worker, they wouldn't see me as a person. They would read my file first.
When you work with complex families, is that you're right, the file just grows, and then you have to, all your personal information is that you wouldn't share. Why would you tell a social worker what was going on? Because you knew it was going to get written down. And everybody that had access to that file, which is still a lot of people, even though it's protected, it's still a lot of people that read that from it.
Go on to the system right now and find it. You know, I was doing therapy, and there was a lot of things that I just couldn't put together, because one of the effects of trauma is it shuts down certain parts of the brain. So it was like, is this real? Did this happen? How did this happen? So I went and redacted all my files and sat down with somebody and read it all. And there was a lot of stuff that I knew, but there was a lot of stuff that I didn't know. And seeing now where I am in the job that I do, and what I'm studying, like, there were so many mistakes. There was so much, like now I'm looking at it, and I'm writing people's notes every day, and I'm supporting people every day, and I look at it and I'm like, how did people get away with this? Like, this is my life. This was me, like, as a child. I put in an application to Aberdeen City Council to get all my reports. Yeah. So everything from, I think it was about age of 7, and I just went through it. So I went through all of it and read it all to try and answer, because there was things I'd done therapy. The therapy I was doing was based on childhood trauma, and some of the things I was like, I don't know. Yeah. Like, I actually don't know. I can't remember. Like, I don't. So it kind of gave me this, like, timeline, and I managed to piece everything together, and stuff that I was holding on to, I kind of managed to let go of and be like, well, that wasn't really your fault, like, you didn't, because, you know, there was a lot of stuff that I was telling myself. You know, that's maybe one thing I would have done differently is I would have opened up more, even though I would have not told myself that these people aren't going to listen to me, because after the first person not listening to me, I put everybody in the same category, and there was a lot of stuff that was never recorded. You know, like, a lot of my life, stuff that happened in children's homes and in prison and out in the community, like, that was never recorded. And I just think, so, like, nobody knows. Right. Like, nobody knew what was going on. Like, I was telling people things and it wasn't getting recorded. And so, like, in 2017, I came out of prison for the last time. So the main focus for all of it was, maybe I was doing things to get drugs, or, like, quite a lot of the assaults were because people were paying me so I could use the money to get drugs. Or because I was taking so much drugs, I needed to commit crime to pay people for money for the drugs that I'd taken. So it was all drugs. When it got to the heroin, it got a bit more serious, because I was then dealing with people that were a lot more not so friendly. They wouldn't give you so much. So that's, like, you know, that was bad. There was a lot of bad stuff that happened then. Like, so I knew he'd been going to these meetings, because when I'd been phoning him and asking him for money, he'd been like, no, I'm not going to give you money, but if you want to go to a meeting, I can take you to a meeting. And I'd be like, I don't want to go to a meeting. I want, like, money. So I don't know why, but I phoned him. Like, I was in prison and I phoned him, and I was just, like, crying, and I was like, I honestly cannot do this anymore. I was like, I am done. And he was like, well, when you get out, come to a meeting. And he just kept saying that to me, and I didn't really understand. Like, I was getting quite angry, because I was like, I want you to tell me what to do. And he was like, I'm telling you what to do, go to a meeting. So I came out and I started going to these meetings, you know, and, like, I was still taking methadone. And like, it doesn't matter what you're taking there. Like, it doesn't matter, like, how much you are, like, you're still welcome there, which is pretty cool, because everywhere I'd ever went up until that point you know, there was always a time limit, like, you've got to be here at this time, and if you're under the influence, we can't get in, and like, and if it was in prison, it was just like, I can't explain it. So I went, and people were like, oh, hi, how you doing? And do you want a hug? And I was like, look. I'm like stinking. Like, I am bad. Like, my brother, when I got clean, I was having a conversation with my brother, and I was like, yeah, I didn't actually smell that bad. And he was like, are you joking? He was like, you used to come up to the house and I had to open all the windows when you left. Like, I smell, because I wasn't washing, like, I'd go weeks.
So we're laughing, it's not funny, but it, you know,
yeah,
those things
but
you
it's
don't
that denial. Being in that position where you've lived a certain way for so long that it's not abnormal to you.
Yeah.
It's not abnormal to not have a shower for a week, like, or get new clothes on, or so I started going to these meetings, and within like 3 months I came off my methadone, and I just like got a day clean. And it's kind of like the last 5 years, I'm 5 years clean. I've just stuck in it. Like, I've just got up every day and turned up for life. Like, I just finished 4 years at college. And now I start university on the 12th of September to do social work. And I've done like a lot of other things in that time. Like, I've volunteered for the Scottish Recovery Consultant, went down to Westminster and spoke with the politicians in there. I volunteer for an outreach group in Aberdeen. Like, I work as a support worker for SACRO. I also work as a policy practitioner for the Children's and Young People Centre for Justice. So I take the Scottish Government's policy and write it in a child-friendly language so children understand their rights. So the standards for those working with children in conflict with the law, that got released in January. You can find it online, so I wrote that. I do a lot of stuff for the whole systems approach. So basically, after university, I want to go into youth justice, and I want to shape the way that policy is written, so children have a better future. Doesn't matter what background they come from.
I think that's why we do what we do here. We don't care where you come from. When kids come here, we don't care what your background is. We don't care what your learning opportunities are. Every kid that comes here gets seen and heard, and every kid that comes here, we give an opportunity to engage. So we've told this story before, but we had a kid that came here that was elective mute. He was choosing not to speak in school, and so they didn't tell us. And I don't ask the teachers when they come here. I don't go, tell me. I actually say to them, is there anything we need to know for today? I don't want to know. I don't want to know who's on. I don't want to know any of that. I just need to know who that we need to maybe put in a little bit of extra support in today to allow them to engage. And after the end of the session, he said it's the best day of his life. And then we were made up, and then we were quite sad. We were like, well, but he hadn't spoken in school, but he hadn't shut up here. He was engaging, but more importantly, he was laughing. He had the best time here just because we didn't have that knowledge. We weren't treating him, even subconsciously, like he has an issue.
Yeah, there's less pressure really as well. Like at school, is you're expected to do a certain thing. Things are expected to be a certain way.
Yeah.
Here we're like, can't spell, can't read. We don't.
I think that's it as well. I think that's it as well. Though, like that expectations people have, like, because I see it now, like. I see like social workers and support workers, and like they like me, right? Anybody I'm working with, I treat them as a human being.
Yeah.
Right. I treat them as a human being, and then I adapt my support around their whatever disability that they've got.
Yeah.
Right. So first and foremost, they're getting treated just like everybody else. You know, and I see other people coming in and they're patronising.
Yeah.
They're speaking to them like they're stupid, and I'm like, these guys aren't stupid. They're actually more capable than anyone's given them credit for. And I'm just like, and I think that's it. And you see it with teachers. You see them coming in passionate about the job, and then they see how challenging it is, and it almost just comes like, right, I'm in on Monday and I finish on Friday. One of the main factors that helped me change my life was when I was 19, I got a support worker, right? And I was in prison, and she used to drive from Aberdeen to Stirling once a month, right? I was doing 3 years, so I was in for a while, right? So she would drive, because I never engaged with nobody, no social workers, nothing. I would go in, I would stare at the floor till the time was up. They would ask me questions, I wouldn't answer them. They would tell me I could leave, and I would leave, you know. And that was just how it was. And this worker drove every month. She came up, and for the first like 6 months, I did not utter a word to her. And at the end, she'd be like, right, I'll see you next month. And I'd be like, why does she keep coming? Like, does she not get the message that I do not want to speak to her, you know? And then when I got released, she came and picked me up from Stirling and drove me back to Aberdeen. And for the first hour I said nothing. And see, by the time we had got back, I had been speaking to her and told her, you know, I was so scared of getting out of prison because I'd been in for like 18 months. And like I was scared that I didn't know where I was sleeping that night, because the process is when you get out of prison, you just go to the homeless and they tell you where you're going that day.
Yeah.
So, in fast forward to take 11, 12 years on, she gave me a reference for university. We now meet up like for coffee and stuff like that. We go for runs together. Like it's not like she's not my support worker anymore, you know. And like she stuck with me for 10 years through everything, through prison, through my addiction. Because I was from 16 to 26. I was on an order from the court where I had to go and see a social worker. So it was like probation. And she just didn't give up on me. That one person is where I get like my passion now. Like my managers at work say to me all the time, where do you get your energy from? And I'm like, it's not energy, it's just passion. Like I actually genuinely love my job. Like I love helping people even when they don't want it, because I didn't want it for so long. It got to the point where it was like social workers would be like, do you know how dangerous that is? Do you know that you could harm yourself doing that? And like people had been telling me this my whole life, and if I told her I was going to do something, because I was a teenager, I was cocky, I'd be like, oh, I'm on my way to do this, and she'd be like, okay, on you go.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, on you go.
You were looking for a shock factor.
Yeah.
She didn't give you.
Yeah, I would be like, she'd be like, I'll see you in the cells on Monday.
Yeah.
Like, do you know, like...
If you could just maybe wait till Tuesday, because bank holiday would be amazing, because I'm quite busy.
Yeah.
I've got a wedding at the weekend.
Yeah.
If you could just wait till next weekend, I would be grateful.
And it's like now when I'm at work, people will say to me, if you don't get out of my way, you're going to punch me. I'm like, well, I'll still get paid for it.
Yeah.
I'm probably getting time off.
See that though? It stops them because they want a reaction.
Yeah.
And see when people are like cheeky or rude or something to me, I'm just like the other day, this guy was wanting to, basically, he was wanting to assault me if I didn't get out his way. And I was like, look, I'm on till 3. And I said, so even if you do assault me, I'm still going to have to stay here till 3, and I will still get paid till 3. I might have to go to hospital, but I will still get paid. And he's just like, you can't speak to me like that. I was like, I can. Like, do you know, and it's like, it's letting them know that, because some people, I lived scared of the world for so long, and that's what I behaved in that way. Like I wasn't waking up in the morning and choosing to be violent or angry, or waking up in the morning, like I didn't decide I was going to be a heroin addict. Like every single factor that made me who I was came from fear. That's just who I am as a person, you know. And as times went on, like I've accepted that, like she's accepted, like, do you know, if I'm worried, I get really manic, you know, and I can't settle down, and I can't have, like, I'm on the go all the time, and I suppose, like, that's having awareness of, like, my patterns of behaviour now, like...
And just accepting that's who you are, and that's all right. And I think it's okay for us all to behave differently, because every experience that we've had led us up to where we are this present moment today. So if we're going to give a good message to children, young people, and everybody actually, because I think your story is powerful for all people, not just young people. What would you?
Told me anyway.
Yeah. I feel really quite honoured that you've said it actually, and I don't want it to sound crass or, but actually sometimes you hear stories that kind of hit you in the back a bit and just go, do you know what? There are some amazing people out there, and I know this is saying, and bear with me because sometimes I talk crap, but you know, not all heroes wear capes, right? And people misuse that phrase. And I don't mean to put that on you, but actually there are people that we should celebrate because they are the people that they are and bring something to we all bring something. But there are people like yourself that bring something to the world. You just think, wow, that's pretty amazing. And not for any corny way, but the fact that you have had to fight your way through a situation that was pretty rubbish. I'm going to try not to swear, so you don't have to edit it out. Pretty rubbish, and the fact that you're paying back to community now, and the reason why not all heroes wear capes, and it's not just because you've given up addiction, which is amazing, or it's not because you've survived that and that's amazing. It's because you've gone, do you know what can I do to make this world a better place?
Yeah.
That's what's amazing about it, because people can give up addiction and get on with their life, and that's great, right? And never look back or never look forward or never. But actually, you've gone, do you know what? I have this, and so without this, you wouldn't have the skills and the drive and the determination to do what you're going to do, which is going to be great.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, and like
Just take the
Just take the
compliment.
compliment. Do not. We're giving you a compliment. So literally just.
And you're right in what you're saying, like when I get up in the morning and I'm getting ready and I'm going to work and blah 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 blah, or I'm working with somebody and they're being really challenging, I'm like, what can I do to make it easier for them today?
Yeah.
It's like my life is so selfless, like it's not about me, like, and right now, like I have like no money, I live in a really flat, but like mold on the wind, like mold on, like, you know, like my life, my environment is not great, right? But what I do know is I'm putting in the effort and the steps to make it better. And I think a lot of people get stuck in a rut, and they get stuck in a place in their life where they become comfortable being miserable.
Yeah, like almost like victim of poor me.
Yeah, poor me.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you can take anything from what I've just said, like you don't actually get to be a victim. like it doesn't get you anywhere, like at all. Like there's no point sitting and be like, oh my god, life's so hard, like get up and do something different.
Well, we try and say that to kids, young kids, because they kind of have this narrative that if their life is a little bit hard, it's like it's over,
Well,
you know.
not the new Xbox.
So or like, you know, and I'm not saying that every kid's life's like that, but what we're trying to say to kids is this is why we teach them resilience, because people use resilience. I mean, don't get me started on trauma-informed track practice stuff. I'm not going to talk about that today. But so we say to kids, you know, you have to learn to be resilient, and your life is never going to go. Life is not linear. You have periods in your life where it's okay. Sometimes it's a bit rubbish. Sometimes it's great, and it will continue to do that throughout your life. So we need to start saying to young people, this is what resilience is, and this is how your body works with resilience. This is how your brain responds to resilience. So unless we teach them that skill, like we teach them maths, English, and other subjects, it's a long time. It's a long time since I was at school. Then how do we then say? Do you know what? We sometimes we get up in a day and we feel a bit but it's how you push through that. Yeah.
And I think as well, it's also about how you don't put that on other people, because it's like how you're feeling is not anybody else's
responsibility.
It's not like, you know, that was a big revelation for me when I learned that in therapy, when like I wasn't allowed to make everyone else around me feel because I did. I was like, what do you mean?
Are you sure?
I was like, what do you mean? I can't be nasty to them.
But I think, I heard years ago, I don't know what's going on. I heard years ago that somebody said to me, the thing is that you can't make people do things, or you can't make people like you, or you can't control that external. All you can control is your response to that. And once I heard that, and that was years ago, I went, what now? What do you mean? When you kind of think about that, what it means is, I can't, if Ken doesn't like me, because he does, because I'm great, but if he didn't, I can't control that. Yeah, I have to pay him extra. But I can't control it. What I can control is how I feel about that, or how I respond to that.
Yeah.
And like you say, you can choose how you respond in situations when you have that knowledge. I'll tell you the story I've got, do I tell this? Yeah, maybe. Anyway, I've got a little neighbour that lives over the back, right? And he was talking to Stu the other day, and it was dead cute, and having a conversation, and he's got really good verbal skills for a little kid. And he was saying to Stu, like, oh, what are you doing today? It's a little kid, and he was like, blah, blah. And he went, who's your best friend? So Stu said, he had to say it, because I could hear him. He went, oh, it's Louise, my wife. You probably wouldn't have said that if I wasn't there. And then the kid went, oh, you're my best friend. Now, what struck me about that is that kids naturally are compassionate and kids naturally believe everybody's their best friend. And then we spend a lot of time going, you can't be friends with that person.
But how freeing is that, though?
Yeah,
like kids,
that's what,
they're so open to trusting people because they're at a stage in their life where they haven't been hurt yet, and you just want to hold
that's
them
what
and
point.
say, just you're right.
Yeah.
I don't remember a time like that.
No, neither do I.
But it's
Neither do
interesting,
I.
but I remember it really hit me
From a
because,
really young age, I was...
remember it really hit me as a really powerful statement. And he said something so off the cuff, and I was thinking, wouldn't it be great if we could hold on to that? I mean, I know it's idealistic, and I know it's utopian, and it's impossible. But he was like, and so Stu then, because of our backgrounds, he went and said to them, is it okay if we chat? I mean, there's a fence between them, and someone was like, and all that kind of stuff. So we were checking out that was safe and okay, and he's like, can I come round to your house? We were like, no, we're busy and all that kind of stuff. But it's just a shame that we're born, and we say to kids, you are born compassionate people. We are born kind people. And then we spend all this society norms about you need to have this, and I won't mention the fish, but then we get to a place where we then strip that away.
And then what happens is society tells you that you're not good enough.
Yeah, 100%.
You're not good enough, and then you start forming all these feelings about you as a person. You're not good enough. You're never going to do this. You don't have that. You're not going to fit in. And like it's such a I could go on and on and on.
It becomes your reality, but it's not reality.
No, it's not.
That would be fed.
But it's a bit like so come.
I'm done. I'm sleeping for the day.
Is that it? Done. That's it. You peaked. I might drop it. But I think it's really. But and I talk to a lot of women my age. So I'm 51. I know it's a shocker. Everybody holds their breath. I know it's a shocker. But women my age, they become invisible and nobody listens to them. And I've told this example. Did I tell the Asda example? I'll tell it again. So I was in Asda the other day. I took my son moved out with his girlfriend shopping. I took him shopping, right? So I had a big trolley. So I looked like this. So instead of going to the self-service, which I refuse to do, I literally just stand in the middle of Asda. Doesn't matter what I'm doing with a trolley of shopping, and I just stand there and look like this, and then people will come and help me. So it's quite interesting that even perceptions as you get older, that people then perceived I was helpless. I am more than able to go more than able, but I didn't want it. So this woman came up to me and she went, would you like me to open the till? And I was like, yeah. And it's quite interesting that perceptions carry on because we don't come from a place that we regard human beings on a human level. Because we always put these things like you're too small, you're too thin, you're not the right colour, you don't have the right sexuality, you're not this. And actually, I will mention the fish because I'm a little obsessed, that we actually are just all fish, right? We're just all from the same sea. It's fine. And unless you kind of really embed it in that, then you always put barriers why we shouldn't like somebody or why we do what we do. And I think people that think that sometimes they have something, it makes them feel good because they think, I'm better than. So when I see people with addiction in Aberdeen, which there seems to be a lot, I've noticed increase at the minute, is that you have to see them more than the sum of that addiction. And unless you think that when you see people, unless you think that, then actually you are just demeaning them by thinking that you're better than. And when you get to that stage, that's when the difficulties
the thing is,
carry on.
I don't think as a society that you'll ever get to the point where there isn't people that think that they're you'll always get people that think that they're better than, because it's their value, it's how they've been brought up. They've come from that in their family, and that family's come from that family, and sometimes I see it and I just think, what a shame. What a shame. But yeah, I think trying to change the stigma towards people with drug addicts, because what happens with me is so when I go for this job that I work for just now, I went for the interview and I done my interview, and because I've got a massive criminal record, they were going to find out because I have to get a disclosure. So I done the interview. I then got the phone call for them to tell me that I got the job. I then told them, because after they've given me the job, it's discrimination, so they can't, because I've got the PVG, it's up to the employer's discretion. So then I tell them, then I say, and by the way, I've got
Pages.
Pages. Like 11.
Yeah.
11.
Hannah would beat my PVG.
To be honest, I have to say, you're the winner at the minute. So
11.
yes, I mean, I don't know why I feel proud about that, but yeah.
Sorry.
11 pages. So then I said, you know, by the way, I've been in prison a few times. But to get my disclosure, I had to go to a tribunal, I had to get references, I had to go to Dundee and sit in front of a panel of people and explain to them that, like, this is who I was, this is who I am now. So I've had to go through all that. So then to be denied a job would just be like, you can't really do that, because these people have said, the health minister has already said that I can, the public health minister has already said that I'm able to work. So then I tell them, but like this job I'm in now, there's only the manager knows, so only the head person knows, so nobody else knows, and it's cool because I can go in there and I can be Hannah. Just Hannah, not Hannah in recovery, not Hannah that was a drug addict, or Hannah that's came through all this adversity. And it's taken me 5 years to be that person, because I know I have this story and I tell it, and you know I go in and I help. I do a lot of stuff for Police Scotland, and I do a lot of stuff for the Scottish Recovery Consortium, and I do that. But I've never been just Hannah. I've never been just Hannah who likes to read on read her book at night and chill on a Sunday and loves walks. I actually love walking in the rain, and who likes to go to the gym and watch RuPaul's Drag, all that.
Yeah.
Right, so that's who Hannah is. You know, Hannah's really feminine. She's pretty chilled out. She doesn't get angry that much. I'm easy. I'll just do anything. But this is the first time I've ever got to be Hannah, because every situation I go into, somebody has been like, oh, do you know who she used to be? Or, oh my God, she's been in jail. Or, oh my God, she done this to my friend. Or, people change. In this job, I get treated just as Hannah. I don't, because I feel like some situations I've went into, it's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry for everything you've been through. I don't want that.
Yeah.
I don't want that. I want you to treat me the same as what you would treat that person next to you. If you didn't, you know what I'm trying to say.
They judge you off what you do then and that moment, not what you did 20 years ago, 10 years ago, or last week.
Yeah. I think if we all strip it down, that's what we all want, right?
Yeah.
We all just want to be treated as human beings, and someone just be kind and appreciative of us, and that takes nothing, actually. It takes nothing to say to somebody, yeah, all right, unless they're being then you have to kind of call out behaviour, but you can call out behaviours and be compassionate. So it's interesting. I've been talking a lot about that for another reason, and I said, look, you can be compassionate, but you can say to somebody, that behaviour's not great, but that doesn't mean you have to be mean about it.
It's like that with a kid, or when you're supporting somebody, they could have a really, 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 really bad morning, right? But one of the biggest things I ever got taught was you can start your day at any time.
Yeah.
So it's they could come in and they could have a horrific morning, and you could be like, why don't we make this afternoon a little bit different?
So if you would want to leave us with a message, what would it be?
Find somebody that you trust, and tell them anything that you want to tell them. Don't be scared to tell people what's going on for you, and don't be scared of your feelings.
Yeah.
And if you don't know what your feelings are, find somebody that will help you identify them.
So when kids come here, we give them numbers of lots of organisations: Samaritans, Childline, Koosh, lots of, thanks. No, you can, Koof, say that, you can edit that back in. I'm not very good at stuff. And we say to kids, if you don't have anybody you can trust at home, because people don't, then you can ring or text or email any of these organisations.